While Airbnb put their release of their IPO filing on hold, DoorDash decided to beat them to the punch as they dropped their filing on this Friday the 13th. Today we take a first look at the company's S-1 filing as they take the next step in going public. Welcome to Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, the channel that's evolved to talk about all the big and not so big companies going public. And today is one of the big ones, as we have DoorDash ending the speculation and finally releasing their IPO filing to the public. But before we take our first look at what's in the filing, I want to thank everyone in the community for sticking with me over the past month or so that liked any big name companies going public. And for those of you new here, my name is Kevin, and I want to welcome you to the channel for the first time. While we were expecting Airbnb to be the first domino to fall in a hot IPO market to round out the year, DoorDash made the first move. If you're into IPOs and want to see more on DoorDash and all the other ones coming out, this channel is for you. So consider this your formal invitation to join the community. And all you have to do is press that little red subscribe button. It's totally free and we'd love to have you on board. I'll check back with you at the end of the video to share more reasons to subscribe, so hang in there till the end. For now, on to DoorDash's IPO filing. So let's get into it. As you can see on the screen, this is the company's S-1 filing. Today we're going to talk about the highlights of what's in the over 260 pages of it. Obviously, most of us realize that DoorDash has benefited from the pandemic, which explains why it makes sense for them to go public now, and this filing will share some of their data with us. The question I have for you is, are you a true believer in DoorDash and all in on investing in the IPO? Or are you still on the fence and wanting to learn more? Let me know in the comments. I always want to know what you guys are thinking. But I know what a lot of you want to know, so before you ask, and I know some of you still will, we don't have a date yet as to when trading will begin, although I would expect it in early December. And another thing that we don't know up front is that we also don't have the expected price range of the IPO. But as those come out in future filings, I'll update you guys, so definitely keep your notification bell turned on so you don't miss that information as soon as I have it. So going back to the filing, here's some of the things that I would consider to be some of the highlights. One of the first things you'll want to know is what the ticker symbol that the company will trade under is. And as stated in the filing, DoorDash has applied to list their stock on the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol DASH, D-A-S-H. Knowing that will get you ready once we get to that trading date. For some background on the company and some interesting statistics, obviously you know that DoorDash has been focused primarily on delivery of food from restaurants, and they do this through a digital platform that connects you to people who will deliver the food straight to you. To give you an idea of how much the company has grown since first starting their business in California back in 2013, as of September 30th of this year, DoorDash connects over 390,000 merchants with over 18 million consumers by way of over 1 million Dashers, or what they call the independent contractors that deliver in all 50 states of the US, including Puerto Rico, as well as in Canada and now in Australia through the digital platform, completing over 900 million transactions. As evidenced by these numbers, the company has become the largest and fastest growing business in the U.S. local food delivery logistics category, with a 50% U.S. category share and a 58% category share in suburban markets. As you can see on your screen, the company's share of the market grew from just 17% in January of 2018 to get to that 50% that we're at today. And this screen also gives you an idea of who their primary competitors are, which many of you know, and those include Grubhub and Uber Eats. As the category leader, U.S. consumers on their platform represented less than 6% of the U.S. population as of September 30th, 2020, and right now, DoorDash believes that they are still in the early phases of even a broader market adoption. As for more stats, in 2019, the company reports to having generated gross order value on the marketplace of $8 billion. In the same period, over $302 billion was spent off-premise at restaurants and other consumer food services in the United States. So when considering future growth prospects, this represented less than 3% of the off-premise spend, which DoorDash sees as highlighting the large addressable opportunity ahead of them in food delivery alone. And we say alone because they are also beginning to expand in other areas beyond food. As the CEO provides guidance to the future, he states the vision to transform the way that local merchants do business and enrich the communities in which they operate. And to execute on this vision, they have 3 strategies they plan to implement. The first is using their on-demand platform to be used to deliver any item. So yes, that means not just food, even though they expect a lot of continued growth just from food delivery itself. Their second strategy is to provide services and solutions to merchants that will enable those merchants to solve challenges such as customer acquisition, delivery, insights and analytics, merchandising, payment processing, customer support, and to fulfill demand generated through their own channels. And lastly, DoorDash wants to leverage the use of a membership program to make it easy and affordable for consumers, which obviously will result in brand loyalty as well. They have already launched a membership program called Dash Pass, where customers pay a flat monthly delivery fee, which currently is $9.99, for unlimited deliveries from eligible merchants. Right now, these deliveries come primarily from restaurants, but going forward, the company envisions the membership program becoming a primary way for consumers to access not only restaurants, but all the local businesses in their community, and in doing so, will receive benefits while shopping in store, at home, or anywhere in between. They started offering Dash Pass in 2018, and as of September, they have 5 million members of the program. So that's where the company sees itself heading into the future. But what we also want to see from these IPO filings is where the company is at with their financial numbers. So let's get into what they're reporting. But before I give you the numbers, I want to ask you to please hit that like button if you're enjoying the video. It helps me know that this is the kind of videos you want more of. Plus, it really helps the channel get more exposure on YouTube, and I'm really looking to continue to grow it with your help. So I really appreciate you doing this for me. Okay, to the numbers. For all of 2019, DoorDash reported revenue of $885 million. But that grew big time through the 9 months ended September 30th of this year, when they generated revenue of $1.9 billion. Now that's some eye-catching growth. And then in the same period of time, their gross profit grew from $335 million to $944 million. As far as their net gain or loss, the company had a net loss of $667 million in 2019, which came substantially down to a loss of $149 million during the first 9 months of this year. And then for adjusted EBITDA, that number grew from a negative $475 million in 2019 to a positive $95 million, also in the 9 months ended September 30th. Okay, so what do you think about those numbers and their trending? I'm guessing that you're liking it. I mean, you have to absolutely love the strong growth. The caveat is how much of that growth is from the pandemic economy and how much of it will be impacted when things get back to normal. That's a question I'll try to answer in a future video, but for now, let's look to the past before the pandemic set in. So on your screen, let's check out the numbers for 2018 and 2019. There you can see, before the impact of the virus, the company's revenue grew threefold from $291 million to $885 million. And within that revenue, the growth in actual numbers of orders for DoorDash more than tripled from 83 million orders in 2018 to 263 million in 2019. And that growth obviously was driven by the company picking up market share, as we talked about earlier, but also by more and more people using these services in general. As far as future risks of the company beyond a return to normal, one of the big ones relate to worker classification, and one that DoorDash explicitly lists in the filing is how regulations determine if the Dasher is an employee or as an independent contractor or gig worker, and how that could impact them in different states or jurisdictions. The company got a huge bit of good news from the election in California when voters passed Proposition 22, which allows Dashers to continue to be classified as independent contractors, thus keeping the company from being responsible for all the regulations and costly requirements that having them labeled as employees would entail. Obviously, this measure is limited to California, but with the state with such a big economy and influence, this has to be seen as a good sign for DoorDash. As to the reasons for going public, DoorDash lists the principal purposes of this offering as to increase their capitalization and financial flexibility, create a public market for their Class A common stock, and enable access to the public equity markets for them and their stockholders. They intend to use the net proceeds from the IPO for general corporate purposes, including working capital, operating expenses, and capital expenditures. Additionally, they say they may use a portion of the net proceeds to acquire or invest in businesses, products, services, or technologies. However, they do state that they don't have any agreements or commitments for any material acquisitions or investments in place at this time. And as to dividends, as common for most fast-growing companies, no surprise here, as they don't plan to offer a dividend anytime soon, instead putting their earnings back into the company for the purpose of continuing to grow the business. So there are the highlights of the filing, and that's just for my first look. As I take a closer look at it and read through more updated filings, I'll let you know what I find. And as I continue to process the information, I'll start to take a deeper look at the company's prospects and come up with a more thorough analysis of the company that considers where the market is going and come up with a share price that I think makes sense. So if you're interested in going along this journey with me, definitely stay tuned to the channel because I'll have more on DoorDash to come. Today really was just taking that first look at the company and getting an idea of what they've been able to do so far. Getting an idea of where they're going is what determines if investing in the company at a certain price makes sense. If this sounds good to you and you're on the fence about subscribing, I hope this video won you over. because once you subscribe, you'll be sure not to miss videos on all the big upcoming IPOs, not just DoorDash, but Airbnb and Instacart. And I'll also make sure you hear about smaller companies that could someday turn out to be the next big thing. And we do this by talking about all the companies coming out during our weekly featured show, IPO This Week. And within each episode of IPO This Week, we also cover all the upcoming lockup expirations and notable quiet periods ending that might give you the opportunity to get into a company that might have been too pricey for you on that first day of trading, but one that you really like. And that's not to mention the live streams that we do when there's something big happening where we can talk about it together live in real time. So lots of things you might enjoy by being part of the community. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. And if you did, please push that like button and share with your friends and on any of your social media sites and forums you're on. It's really important and is a way for you to help me grow the channel. And the more it grows, the more resources I'll put towards it. So with that, thank you for watching, and until next time, have a great day.